So today's review is from Jovoy, specifically Psychedelique, or Psychedelique, however you pronounce it. So Jovoy has come out with a wide variety of fragrances. This one seems pretty interesting just by the name alone. I hear it's a pretty ambery, patchouli sort of fragrance, and it came out in 2011, so it's been around for a while. I'll get right into it, put some on my wrist, see how it smells. Okay, immediately, extremely resinous. That's the first thing you come across when you smell this. It's very strong. It's much stronger than I expected. Yeah, it's just super resinous, ambery, and things like that. So there's one top note, and it just says citruses, so it's pretty vague. The citruses, I would say, they're pretty faint. It's not like a big, juicy, fresh citrus opening. It's just kind of a mild citrus in the back, even more of a dried citrus, you know, when you get like some orange slices and you bake them in the oven. So very faint, warmer type of citrus instead of fresh citrus. Then you go straight into the middle notes. The citrus notes really are just kind of on the surface, floating, and then you go straight into the body of this fragrance, which consists of patchouli, amber, French labdanum, geranium, and rose. So most of anything, I'm getting the amber and the patchouli. So the amber is like the immediate thing that I get. It's very much, because pretty much if you look at any fragrance list, the notes, there'll be amber somewhere in that list. But you don't often smell it. It's usually kind of in the background underneath the other notes, more complementary. This fragrance is full amber. There's no skirting around the amber. You're going straight into the amber. So this is an extremely resinous fragrance. Then the patchouli. Same thing with the patchouli as with the amber. You'll often find it in the note lists of almost every single fragrance. You'll find patchouli. But it's almost always, again, tucked underneath the other notes, just kind of in the background. But this time, the patchouli is really in full force, not playing around. And it really complements the amber scent that's coming through here. And the amber mixed with the patchouli, and then the florals. The rose is the more prominent of the florals, I would say. Neither of the florals are really that strong here, but they add a little bit of sweetness, which is nice because the amber and the patchouli alone are very strong, kind of on the drier side. So the rose and the geranium kind of lighten that up so it's not too strong. Then coming into the base notes, there's only two of them. There's vanilla and then there's musk. So I would say they're both pretty strong. The vanilla comes through, adds a touch of sweetness, but it's really more of a warm vanilla, kind of like Madagascar, vanilla bean, you know, more of a natural type of vanilla scent. Then the musk, I would say, it's definitely there. It's a little bit animalistic, but not crazy. Kind of subtle in terms of how musks go. But it adds a little bit of a grounding factor for the entire fragrance, so you know it doesn't just float away. It has some staying power and things like that. But overall, out of all the notes that this thing has, I would say that the amber and the patchouli are still the strongest overall. They're pretty much the first things you smell when you put it on, and even now that it's started to settle down, they're still the most prominent notes that this fragrance has. And the vanilla does sneak in there. The vanilla kind of rides along on the tailcoats of the amber and the patchouli. But the rest of the notes are really not that strong. The musk is there a little bit for an extra kind of texture, an extra layer there. But this is probably one of the strongest resinous amber fragrances I've smelled. The only thing that comes close in my mind is Ambre Sultan from Serge Lutens, which I've reviewed before. That is also an extremely resinous kind of firm, dry sort of fragrance. And this is pretty similar. I would say it's a touch sweeter than Amber Sultan, but this is a very unique scent. Besides Amber Sultan, there's really not that many fragrances that smell similar to this. And it's unique because it's not just amber, but it's also mixed with that patchouli note. So you're getting this kind of mix between the resin and then the green notes of the patchouli, and then, as I said before, a little bit of that sweetness from the vanilla and things like that. So I would say, so longevity on this is crazy. It really sticks to the skin. I would say probably 7 hours, maybe even 8. It depends. I only put on a little bit on my wrist, and it's just really, really radiating. So it's very strong. And projection in the same vein, very strong. You really don't need to put on that much to get it to perform correctly and well. Pretty much just a few sprays, it'll reach pretty far across the room. Wherever you go, it'll leave a nice scent trail. So definitely a very, very noticeable fragrance. Now, I like it as well because it has a certain exotic nature to it. It reminds me a little bit of Shalimar from Guerlain, which is a very old 1920s fragrance. It's kind of similar in the fact that it has that exotic resinous nature, very strong amber notes, kind of reminds you of incense sort of thing, has that patchouli mixed in with the musk and the vanilla. So similar in that way, and especially that Shalimar was inspired off of kind of the legends of ancient India with their incense and spices and things like that. So this reminds me somewhat of that. This is probably a little bit sweeter, just a tad, from the vanilla that it has and from the florals, but it's not really a sweet scent in general. It just has a little bit of that natural sweetness from the vanilla. For the most part, you're getting the amber and the patchouli. And I would say this is a really good unisex option as well. It's really nice in the middle, balancing the muskier notes from the sweeter notes. And like I said, it's just very unique. When you wear this, you're gonna stand out pretty easily because not too many people are wearing this particular scent or pure amber scents in general. So when you do wear this, you're definitely gonna attract a lot of attention. And it's just, like I said, exotic. It has that kind of strange attraction to it. I mean, for the most part, it's a really good fragrance, very well crafted. Has a bunch of unique notes combined together to create a very nice product. But that is pretty much all I have to say about Psychedelique from Jovoy. Hopefully you found this review helpful, and if you did, leave a like and maybe subscribe. And I make a few videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.